Hello and Happy New Year. I've been off work for the last couple of weeks and have tried to actually properly take time off, which I find really hard. It has been a good couple of weeks of introspection, to say the least. I definitely realised that while in my head the narrative around moving home was very much like, oh, I'm home, it was easy, I'm so glad to be home, I was back running on my feet. Very similar to the way I talk about, for example, jet lag, like, oh, I got back from a trip, but then I got straight back into things, and not wanting to be the person who needs anything, not wanting to be the person who needs extra help or support. And I've recognised how kind of, I don't know, destructive sounds like a big dramatic word for that, but how pervasive at least that is in my life, how much I pretend to not need anything ever whatsoever, not just because it's like a big pretense and I want to seem strong all the time, but because a lot of the time I don't know that I'm doing it. And I don't know how to listen to myself about what I want even. And over the past few months, it's almost been like experimenting with finding out what it is exactly that I do want and learning to listen to that. Oftentimes it's having to come face to face with how contradictory wants can be and needs can be, and working out whether I actually want something or if I've just kind of picked it up from somewhere. I don't know. It's a strange thing to have to learn how to want things, or to learn that there are wants that have been there that I just haven't really listened to or have actively turned the volume down on. So that was a lot of my year last year. And it was funny because it was a year when saying something no longer held me to something. So I would say again and again, I'm going to make more videos now, or I have a back burner that I've made, or I'm going to just edit this episode to make out with him. And just saying it used to kind of bind myself to it, used to commit myself to it, because I would feel the weight so much of letting people down and of not being able to deliver on something. And I still do feel that. I still feel tremendously guilty about things that I know no one's going to like attack me for. But at the same time, there was a louder voice in me that just said, you can't do that right now because you're working through all of this other shit. Like, you can't do everything all the time. You can't be that person. Like, that's not sustainable for anyone. And not for you right now. Like, maybe at some point there is a way for you to do X, Y, and Z at once, but you can't do that. And I found myself very frustrated with that because I've been the person who can get to yes, who can say, I can do all of these things at once, and suddenly I felt like I was morphing into someone who couldn't, and suddenly it felt like I was morphing into someone who could do nothing at all, and I think that compounded with like just the end of year exhaustion that I think so many of us feel in December. It kind of got to be too much. And to the credit of absolutely every single person around me, they were like, you are going to burn out. Like, you need to stop now. Take more time. Take this afternoon off. Like, let's do something really chilled out. Like, stop. And it took so much work for me to stop. Even when the holidays had begun, I was like checking in on various things, or just kind of like in my head in that place of like going. It's like, in physics, and I'm guessing also in driving lessons, which I've never taken, you learn about stopping distance and how if you put your foot on a brake, then the car won't stop for a certain amount of time afterwards, depending on how fast you're going. And I was like driving 150 kilometers per hour down the road, pressing the brake all of a sudden and trying to stop. So it took me at least a week until I'd even caught up on sleep. Friday evening, when I'd kind of clocked on to holiday time, I was at my friend Lex's house at a Christmas dinner, and I felt in a lot of ways like I couldn't participate. I was watching people play card games and I was just like, I can't participate in this in my head. And then it wasn't until the following Friday that I woke up in the morning and thought, okay, I actually feel like I got a good night's sleep. Since the new year, I've been going to bed by 9 p.m. every single night, like lights out, me in my pajamas, closing my eyes, thinking like, oh, maybe I'll read a book as I'm falling asleep, listening to Harry Potter audiobooks as I do pretty much every single night. I haven't felt like I've been getting too much sleep. I definitely was running out the clock on myself, and it was a combination of things. It wasn't just work things or just emotional things. It was all sorts of different things happening all at once. But it was a strange thing to kind of come to the realization that I was fully burnt out. Like I just couldn't. And I had all of these ideas for things that I wanted to do on my 2 weeks off, in the vein of I'm going to be listening to myself and doing exactly what I want and doing all the creative projects that I want to do, writing every single day and editing lots of videos and watching all of these series and reading all of these books. And of course there isn't the time to do that, although I did do a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I'm glad that I did them. But it was interesting how much pressure I put on myself even in this holiday time. And I posted about this the other day on Twitter. There was a day when all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, well today I'm going to do my taxes, and then I'm going to do, take all these things to the charity shop, and I'm going to do a clear out, and I'm going to plan all my meals, and I'm going to join the gym, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. It was like a panic from the absence of having all of these other ways I sort of measure my self-worth and how much I've accomplished in a day. Without that, I had to find something else that would give me that ability to measure my self-worth, and I could see myself doing it. And yet also, while I was aware of myself doing that, I was still seeking praise. I was still seeking admiration for like all of the things I managed to accomplish in a day, and like looking back at it I almost cringe because I can see myself doing it so clearly. I so desperately need that validation of the overachiever, and it's just funny to me that I thought that I wasn't a perfectionist anymore. I am, to a fault, 100%, and it has a lot to do with a lot of different things, not least my secondary school experience, because I see this in a lot of other people who went to my school and who experience a similar kind of burnout and a similar kind of like ridiculous high standards for themselves, and not high standards, impossible standards and expectations, and building yourself up to fail, and the minimum having to always be overachieving, giving yourself too much. Tavi Gevinson wrote an amazing editor letter for Rookie, the last editor letter for Rookie, about scammer syndrome, about overpromising, about promising what you can't give. And I think that was something, that was the stage I'd got to. That was like my whole 2018 was that. Starting from the moment that I wasn't really acknowledging that moving home was a big thing too. Like, even though I was very happy to do it and excited to do it and felt just like a lot of, a lot of familiarity in coming home, obviously. It also felt, I had to address the fact that I felt like I'd somehow failed at something, that I hadn't seen something through to the end somehow. Letting myself feel what I feel without judging myself. Another big theme of 2018. And I think is going to be another big theme of 2019, and is something that I have been telling friends and yet not listening to myself. So that's the mindset, the awareness with which I'm beginning 2019. It also has to be said that it's difficult to have the ambition of doing less or doing things in a more focused way, or of taking care of myself in a different way, when around me I feel like a lot of my friends' ambitions and a lot of kind of the broader community's ambitions are ambitious. They're specific goals, they're things that I would want for my life too. But right now in this moment, the most important thing isn't that. It isn't the result of it or the signifier of success or anything. It has to be taking care of this and taking care of this, and looking at things head on realistically, because that too is that's where the real idea of success has to come from, really. Like being able to go on, there being something here to go on with, that has to be it, rather than these other false idol kind of things that are real to me in different ways and important to me in different ways. But it all comes back to the idea that this terror I have of missing out, of missing my moment, of somehow not taking opportunities at the right time, or of not doing things well enough to the point that it has damned me for life in one direction, and all of these things that feel very real and threatening, but in reality come from me and come from what I'm afraid of. So it is asking a whole new level of bravery of me, I feel like, but also of compassion and of patience. And I'm really not a patient person, but I think patience will be the big word for 2019, if we're going for big words. I'm not doing resolutions this year, but big words, that I'll take. All right, I'll speak to you soon. Bye.